This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty at the Fort Hall School of Government to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground-truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and ideas that made you stupid. Narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjuncture history, and those that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome, Ms. K and AX.
Thank you. Thank you. This week I'd like to make a comment on a column by Wycliffe Muga published in The Star last week. It was titled Kenyan Elections, full of surprises. The main thing that stood out for me in this column is a question asked by the author, Wycliffe Muga. And this is the question. Why does Dr. Ruto have none of the acknowledged regional political heavyweights backing his bid for the presidency? Mr. Muga asks this question because according to him, and I agree with him, we know two things about Kenyan voting patterns when it comes to presidential elections. One, MP support for a presidential candidate is a poor guide of that candidate's likely support from the voters in a region. If 12 or so MPs from a region follow you around on your campaign trail, or even if 100 MPs allegedly attend your parliamentary group meeting, it does not tell us anything about the level of support you have or whether you will win the election. This is because about 70% of all MPs are doomed to lose their seats. And Central Kenya is especially notorious in this practice of MP dismissal. Two, the support of acknowledged regional kingpins is a more dependable measure of electoral success in a region. According to Mr. Muga, the acknowledged regional kingpins are the men who have come to personify the aspirations of a region, and at any one time there are rarely more than half a dozen such men in the country. Mr. Muga names the current regional kingpins as Raila Odinga, William Ruto, and the members of the One Kenya Alliance, and he hypothesizes that the Oka Brotherhood will end up working for Raila for two reasons. Ruto has largely ignored the group, and while Oka is friendly towards Raila, it sneers at Ruto's ideas. Well, according to Bruce de Mesquita and Alistair Smith in the book The Dictator's Handbook, the political landscape can be broken down into three groups of people. The first are the interchangeables. Is the general population, specifically the eligible voters. They don't count. The second are the influentials. These are, for example, the members of the political party that nominate the presidential candidate, so the ticket that gets you there. And third, and most important of all, are the essentials. These are the people whose support is essential if a leader wants to get to and survive in office. These are the individuals with the power to make or break a bid for the presidency. And in my view, acknowledged regional kingpins or political heavyweights such as Raila Mudavadi and are essential. Any presidential candidate needs them to pool the undivided support of an ethnic region and secure a presidential win. In simple terms, you need them to make a winning coalition. So the silent question lingering behind Wycliffe Muga's column last week is, how has William Ruto come so far and done so well, yet he's a lone ranger? To hazard an answer, William Ruto is a function of terrain and velocity. Change his environment or his pace, and the story changes.
And some have said his alliance with the people is nonsense.
Nonsense, it is.
So today I would like to respond to the Standard's headline. Is DP Ruto an unassailable frontrunner, or is he a mere pace-setter? An interesting question indeed, and yet the question is not answered by the very paper that poses it. Instead, it is used as a vehicle to chronicle the political events of the last week. Therefore, today I would like to answer the question the Standard poses and address another. If Ruto is a frontrunner, will it be enough to secure the keys to State House? To gauge whether DP Ruto is a frontrunner or a pace-setter, we must first understand what those terms mean. According to American presidential speechwriter William Safire, a frontrunner leaves the starting gate well and sets the pace for the other contestants, an advantageous position for the candidate. Based on this definition, Ruto is both a frontrunner and a pacemaker. However, being the frontrunner and the pacemaker will not be enough to win him the presidency for two reasons. The first is that there is no real advantage to being the frontrunner, and this is because most Kenyans aren't paying attention to the election yet. This inattention means that Ruto's early support is based on shallow preferences and name recognition. In essence, he is ahead not because he is genuinely supported, but because he is widely known. This explains why in the mountain, support for Ruto is cratering as Raila continues his summit. The second reason why being the frontrunner will not be enough is because the idea of a Ruto presidency has not crossed the tipping point. According to Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point is the point at which ideas spread like a virus. And the idea of a Ruto presidency is not spreading like a virus. In fact, it seems like everyone is wearing their face masks and social distancing. Now, according to Gladwell, there are three factors that determine the virality of an idea. And the one that will counteract Ruto's frontrunner status is the law of the critical few, something that Ms. K has touched on before. Economists call this the 80-20 principle. And this is the idea that in any situation, roughly 80% of the work is done by 20% of the participants. If you've ever done group work, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In politics, this means that the critical few are more influential in elections than the trivial majority. And yet Ruto is using his frontrunner status to court the trivial majority as he makes alliances with the trivial people. This leads me to a question. Is it possible that this strategy and his failure to seek the support of the critical regional kingpins will counteract his frontrunner status? Because Ruto will have to work 4 times as hard to secure the same votes the critical regional kingpins would have guaranteed for him. I will end with words from the founder of Nike, Philip Knight, and a message for William Ruto. Front runners always work the hardest and risk the most. And if Ruto continues as he is, he might just risk the presidency.
Interesting. I like that.
I really like that.
Pace setter versus front runner.
Yes.
So in the Standard, Barrack Muluka tells us that the liberators of yesterday have ganged up with oppressors. He attempts to make 2 points, but rather meagerly. One, he points a finger at Raila and asks why he is partnering with historic oppressors of the Kenyan people, the ruling elite. But on this, Muluka is choosing to view history too simply. There are many times that good people have had to team up with bad people. For example, the Italian mafia and the American government in World War II. And sometimes to get something done, you must compromise with the people who previously hurt you. Muluka called Raila's trajectory in politics a regression. But surely, when the terrain changes, as Ms. K has told us, so should one's course.
Indeed.
In 2022, Odinga has chosen the path of least resistance, and I commend him for it. Muluka's second point disturbed me the most, his binary view of Uhuru's administration. He states, democracy is as much about access to services and opportunities as it is about elections. And then Muluka asks us, has Uhuru's government, for example, been democratic in giving all Kenyans access to opportunities? Then he gives no response. But I will, a brief one. Uhuru has overseen huge investments for the lives of Kenyans. By extension, this has enabled access to increased opportunities. In education, we have a 100% transition rate, a new curriculum to ensure that we churn out children prepared for the future. We've made gains in universal healthcare, the building and upgrade of hospitals across the country, 24 just in Nairobi, to name a few. This is just to ensure a healthy workforce. With devolution, we have funds transforming previously marginalized areas. Article 204 of the Constitution established the Equalization Fund, where 14 countries receive more of the resources in order to catch up. Infrastructure developments are everywhere. You just have to open your eyes. Uhuru has built 11,000 kilometers, nearly 6 times what Kibaki had built. This is a huge effort to have all Kenyans participate meaningfully in the economy. Is this not the expansion of opportunity? And then despite COVID-19, the economy of Kenya has stayed resilient. Muluka seems to be suffering from recency bias. He wishes Kenyans to only remember the pain of now. and to forget the developments that have been made over 8 years? Does he forget that even when the 2017 election was nullified, Uhuru obeyed the court's orders? Is this a regression of democracy? And why is he choosing not to see the handshake as a game, a nod towards inclusive politics? Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering the season of high politics. So remember this, as Plato realized, it is the storytellers who possess the most authority in society, because they define our roles, they provide us with purpose and place our lives in a larger context that gives them meaning. Kenya has an important story to tell, not only for herself, but as an example of the progress on the continent. So don't let silly narratives be the substitute. Look out for the facts. So we've put you on notice. Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post, and we'll see you next Monday.